Hello everybody, I'm Jenna and I love using art journaling as a way of having a conversation with God. I'm a Christian and that helps me in my faith journey. So today it's cold outside and I'm using some coarse texture gel to get some texture onto my page. I find texture quite hard work sometimes. It's a bit limiting it feels like once you've put it on the page, you have to kind of put up with it really. You can't really go back. And sometimes I find that quite hard. But I guess that's life, isn't it? Sometimes we make decisions and we have to make the best of those consequences. This rainbow tape, again, I've had it for ages. It's really fun. And I just saw it at the back of the cupboard and I thought, because I was thinking about the icy weather, I thought that I would just stick some on and see how it went. Then that inspired the blue colour, and I like to, at the moment, I really like putting plenty of white on my work as well, so I've mixed in some white with that, and it feels kind of quite stormy really, but hopeful in that storm, which is really nice, isn't it? That's a nice place to be. And I'm reminded of something God said to me recently, which was that I was thinking about Peter getting out of the boat, and the words were, Jesus doesn't meet us in the boat, he meets us out on the waves. And we'd much prefer it, wouldn't we, if Jesus met us in the comfort of the boat. But actually he calls us out to meet him somewhere else, somewhere that doesn't feel so safe and familiar, in the challenges of life, in the hard times, in the chaoticness of life. That's where he can meet us best. So that's where my thoughts are going at the moment. So I need to wait for this to dry and then I'll come back and do a bit more. Hello, I'm back again and I've got a blue finger. Never mind, some of these paints are nicer than others. I love painting with my fingers, but sometimes you pay the consequence. So this is not quite dry, but almost. And I went upstairs and I was thinking about the sort of wintry theme, and I was having a look through a magazine to see if there's any collage elements I could use. I really like this style because the way that styles represent going from one place to another, and the sort of choice and decision point that they are really in a journey. So I love that, but that's a bit big probably. In fact, a lot of these are going to be a bit big. I love that fern. Maybe I could draw something like that, or attempt to. That's a little sparkly tree. It's got some of that blue going on, so that might be quite nice. I loved this. Look at that. That's so beautiful, that white and that red. I just thought that was incredible. And the fruitfulness in the middle of winter, that is just like, doesn't that speak to you of, I'm thinking of the fig tree that was cursed and the way the Bible says we should bear fruit in and out of season. And what is out of season for us? Well, maybe it is some of those stormy times. So there's definitely something going on there. I'm kind of really tempted to use that in some way. It's just so beautiful. Crazy. I love this one as well. Look at that. That's just mad, isn't it? I love trees. Slight obsession with trees. And then I've also got some lovely grasses here. I kind of thought that maybe I could use these grasses in the middle ground. I might just try and tear those out a bit. just think it's nicer to tear things than to cut things, because you get much more of a kind of jaggedy edge, and you can kind of blend it in with the rest of your picture a bit more if you use torn edges. So I think I might stick that on and see where we go. We need a bit more paint as well at some stage. I love these, the subtlety of these colours. Okay, let me go find some glue. So I've got a tea bag, just a regular tea bag, and I sometimes use tea to stain things with. Can you see the colour coming off the tea? And it can give this kind of vintagey sort of look. And you can go right over the top of that blue as well. Hey guys, so a quick recap where we're at. I owe you guys an apology because things have moved on since I paused the video. I couldn't resist taking my journal to bed with me last night and just fiddling and pondering and mulling over with the Lord whilst adding a bit of detail, so it may have changed a little bit since you last saw it. So I also wasn't able to chat much during some of the process that I was going through, but just wanted to fill you in on some of that. I used Brusho, which is like a pigment powder to do on top of wet paper. Wet the paper and did this, if you remember that. It's called Brusho. It's not something I use very often, but it's worked out so beautifully. If you can see some of that detail, I'm really pleased with how it's worked. The colour kind of separates as you sprinkle it on the page, and I think that's really beautiful. So then I used a brush to create some of these grasses. It was a kind of beaten up old brush that the kids use, but it seemed to work really well to make these loose grassy kind of marks. And then I drew on, I was thinking I'd love to stamp on something like this. I've seen lots of lovely stamps with, what are these guys called? Umbellifers, that kind of shaped flower or seed head. So I didn't have a stamp, so I just drew it really simply. I went over it, I did it in brown, and then I went over in black because I wanted it to stand out a bit more, and I put a bit of white highlight on there. Then, if you remember, I used a stencil to get these branches on. They're a bit sort of heavy, and I kind of knew they were going to be, really, but that's kind of okay. They certainly look snowy, don't they? We're definitely in winter, and I used last night in bed I was using a white Posca pen to do some of these finer lines. That definitely would be on my desert island supply list. A Posca paint pens they're called, and particularly the white one I use a lot to go over the top of coloured backgrounds, to draw, to write, to journal. That is really, really useful. So overall I'm really happy with where it's going, and I think one of the things I need to do next is add some fruit to these trees. Do you remember that magazine picture that inspired me? Right, so I've got some fruit going on here, inspired by my picture, and I'm still really feeling like this is God speaking to me about fruitfulness, whatever the season. And my word for the year, if you like, when I was thinking at the beginning of the year what might 2020 be all about, was abundance. In fact, talking to you guys, I've only just realised this really, that that word abundance is linked to fruitfulness, isn't it? And I felt it was going to be a spiritual abundance, to look with spiritual eyes to see the abundance of God. And really this is confirming that to me and speaking of similar things, really. Last night, as I was pondering it, I was flicking through a magazine, and these were some of the words that stuck out to me. I found this one all year long, thinking of fruitfulness even in the winter, and luckily I found a rather smaller all year round, and sustainable and seasonal. And I was thinking about eating seasonally and how there is abundance all year round, but it's not necessarily the same things all year round. That actually different plants in your garden produce different things in different seasons. So it's about being expectant, but not in a way that is always expecting to see the same results in the same ways, I think, for me. I also had the phrase great expectations, so I think I might jot that down actually, before it escapes me. And I wonder if I'll work that in somewhere. Great expectations. Right guys, I've stuck on my words, and I was still just feeling a little bit like these sort of branches at the top were just a bit too bold and not very well incorporated. So I tried various things, but I ended up doing these little white splatters of paint, which are still wet if you can see them. And that's a really good tip, to be honest, if you're feeling like you don't really like something on a page, then just splattering some paint over the top is a really good go-to thing, because it just kind of loosens up the whole thing. And if something looks a bit messy, it kind of makes it look like it's messy on purpose. It's kind of a little cheaty jobby. And in this picture, it's got the added effect of looking like snow, which is just perfect for our wintry kind of theme. So I also have here somewhere, where is it? Here we go. So I've also got, so I'm probably making you feel drunk because I've taken my phone off the camera and the lighting here is just terrible, but I've also got a picture of a red kite, which is a type of bird of prey, and I pulled this out of a magazine because it had my birthday on it. Look at that, 14th of October. A beautiful red kite soars high in the clear evening sky. And so I might try and incorporate him somewhere. That's about rising above the circumstance, isn't it? We will soar on eagle's wings, as it says in the Bible. And if the circumstance is the season that we're in, which others might say is not one of fruitfulness, then we say no to that. We say we can soar and we can see abundance. So I'm going to have a go at cutting him out, I think, and seeing if he can fit on the page somewhere. He might not be able to, but we're going to give it a go. Hi folks, so I think I'm finished with my page. I've gone as far as I can go with it in terms of listening and chewing over what I feel good is saying to me through this piece, at least for the moment. Sometimes I come back to pieces weeks or months later, but for now I think I've got to where I want to be, and that's more important to me than the page being finished, I guess, in terms of a piece of artwork, because you can always keep fiddling, can't you, and adding, and yeah, but I'm happy to with where I got to, and I hope you enjoyed watching me create it. I'm gonna show you around the piece now, and hopefully I'll be doing some more of these process videos. That's my aim anyway this year, to do a few more. So let me know what you think in the comments, that would be great. Thank you, bye.